Hi everybody, welcome back to another edition of Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I, Rebecca, your host, recap live trials that are going on YouTube. Now, these are state trials. Federal court does not allow cameras, so we're missing out on a lot of great stuff in federal court. And I did want to give you one update before we get into today's show. The Lucy Let Me trial, and I do have everything playlisted if you want to go back and check out that trial. It's a trial that I am covering, or I covered, in the UK. It occurred over a 9-month period of time. The jury has been deliberating. Yeah, am I saying that right? The jury's been deliberating since July 10th. They continue to deliberate every day from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Now, a lot of last week, one of the jurors was sick, so they did not deliberate. Yeah, that's how it works in the UK. They don't replace it with an alternate. They just wait till that person gets better and then they have court, which is what occurred during this entire 9-month period of time. A juror would get sick, they would wait till the juror got better again, and then they would have court, or someone would be sick, or someone's family died, or, it very strange. So Lucy Letby is charged with 17. Well, let me say it this way. She's charged with the murder of 7 infants and the attempted murder of 10 others. 22 charges. Most of the charges are attempted murder. So the jury's having to go through each one of those charges, each one of those 17 babies. She was a neonatal intensive care nurse. Very interesting case, very interesting story. If you want to go back and listen to the coverage that I did on of that case over in the UK. When they if when if they ever come back with a verdict, I will let you know what that is. Now, it's going to be a separate verdict on each count. So 22 possibilities of guilty, 22 possibilities of not guilty, could be hung on some of the charges. We don't know. So we will find out shortly. So currently, though, I started covering the case of Wisconsin versus Taylor Shabbusiness. I'm so sick of seeing Taylor already. It's only day one, and I'm tired of looking at her. And the reason she's always on camera. It's a split camera in this case. So half the screen is her, and the other half is the witness or the exhibit that's being shown to the jury. Yeah, I'm tired of looking at her because I'm going to show you some photographs of evidence that was collected in the case. And because of the split screen, you'll see her reaction to each piece of evidence, it is interesting. So when I do show you that, I want you to focus on her reaction. I mean, you can look at the item, but focus on her reaction. Now, there were some photographs that I did not include that were I almost threw up at one point. And all they were showing was the shower drain, but yeah, yeah, I can't even describe it. I'm not going to show it to you because I'd never get monetized on this channel if I showed it to you. Anyway, the jury was not shown any pictures of body parts, nothing like that. But there's human tissue on some of the items and in the shower drain. And I just said I wasn't going to say that, didn't I? Anyway, um, so a lot of witnesses yesterday. A lot. The first witness was a dispatcher with the 911 call system, and she played the 911 call that came in on the morning of February 23rd of 2022. This was during the height of the pandemic, COVID, and apparently Taylor Shabbusiness and her best friend Shad Therion were having a little fun in the basement. Yeah, and it got out of hand. But first, you want to see what I finished? Yes, my diamond painting, The Great Escape. This is a retreat that I went to, and we got a free diamond painting, and so I finished it, and it's so pretty. Yeah. Now, I'm not starting another diamond painting until Tuesday of next week, so I got a whole week off of diamond painting. I might get my watercolor painting out. I haven't worked on that in a while. I've been crocheting. Yeah, crocheting, and I don't know, maybe I'll kit up something else. Who knows? I've got a lot of stuff. Yeah. In any case, so the jury got to hear the 911 call. The caller was Steve, the guy that was living with mom, Tara. Tara and her boyfriend Steve lived up on the second floor of this house. I'm going to show you a picture of this quaint little house that they lived in. On what was the? It's such a cute name of the street, Stony Brook Lane. Stony Brook Lane. This little, I forget what they call these kind of houses, but anyway, you guys know. You'll tell me. That's where they lived. There was a basement that was partially finished. The main floor where there was a 16-year-old living, Tara's daughter from another marriage. So her brother was Shad Therion by her mom, but Shad and the sister had different fathers, and it wasn't Steve, the guy upstairs. Strange families these days. Blends, always blending. Anyway, we're going to hear from the juvenile, the 16-year-old that was living on the second floor, or main floor, and then the top floor was kind of a loft area. That's where Steve and Tara were living. So you see a picture of the house here. So we heard the 911 call, and he's telling them that he was awakened by his girlfriend, who said that her son's head was in a bucket in the basement. Now, he came across as not believing her. like like what, who would? Like that's so far fetched. Like, who wakes you up at 2 in the morning, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and goes, "Hey, my son's head's in a bucket in the basement." So he said to the 911 dispatcher that yes, he went down to look, but he said, "My eyesight's not the greatest, and I'm not sure what I saw in that bucket. I don't know what it was." So they send out police, lights and siren to the house. And he didn't call 911. He called the non-emergency line because he didn't want them to come lights and siren, to disturb. It's the middle of the night, and if it's true that her son's head is in a bucket, there's no life you're going to save, right? So he calls the non-emergency line. He gets put through to an operator. At this point, it's being recorded, and you hear him, and he's not very alarmed at all. He's not sure what it was he saw, but here's what my girlfriend's telling me that she saw. And then at one point, she gets on the phone, and she's very calm. Yeah, here's the name of my son. Here's his date of birth. So as it turns out, her son was living half the time with her and half the time with his father, but he's an adult. So the first person to take the stand after the 911 operator is two police officers. The first person on the scene, the officer that got the call, and then the next witness was the sergeant, and they both responded simultaneously, lights and siren, to this house because of the nature of the call. There's a head in the bucket, and they both arrive to that residence at the same time. So they get out. They go down to the basement. They're escorted down to the basement. They get permission to search from the homeowner, which is Tara. And they go down, and there's a head in the bucket. So they go back up. They've got to now, their job now is to preserve that crime scene. They don't go back to the crime scene. They go upstairs. They ask everyone to sit at the kitchen table. They wake up the teenager that's asleep in the bedroom on that main floor where the kitchen is, and they ask her also, could you go sit at the dining room table? And she does. Yeah. So they call the detectives and the medical examiner and, the entourage that's going to come out to this house to do the investigation. Then the next person on the stand is Steve, the guy that lived upstairs with Tara. He takes the stand. Older guy, probably, I'm going to guess, in his 50s. And he's asked about his eyesight. And he says, he's asked, are you nearsighted, farsighted? He's like, well, I wear readers for when I'm reading, and I'm just getting old. He apparently he just hasn't been to the eye doctor. In any case, he talks about what happened on the 22nd, which was a Monday. So he said the morning of the 22nd, about 1:20 a.m., 1:30 2 a.m., something like that. He's awakened by 6 knocks on the door. Now, they don't use the front door. He said that there's stuff blocking the front door. They never use it. They use the side door that leads out to the driveway. And apparently, Shad has a secret knock that they refer to as his key. So he knocks 6 times, and that lets the Steve and Tara know it's Shad. He wants to come in. So he goes downstairs. He lets Shad and Taylor Shabusiness in. Now, apparently, when you walk in that side door, you immediately go down to the basement, or you can go to the right and continue on into the kitchen area. So they went down to the basement. He goes back upstairs and goes to bed. So he gets up the next morning, and he said around 9:30, Taylor comes up. Taylor Shabusiness, the defendant, she comes out of the basement, comes up to him in the kitchen, and asks if she can borrow a pair of readers, because he says, I have a whole box full because I'm always losing them. So he gives her a pair of readers, and then she goes back down to the basement. This is on the 22nd. He said he then gets into an argument with Tara. They're fighting, bickering back and forth, and so he leaves the house. He's gone for 6 or so hours and drinking. And when he comes home, he says he goes upstairs and he goes to bed. This is all on the 22nd. He never sees Shad that day, the 22nd. He only sees Taylor at 9:30 in the morning when she comes to ask for the readers. And then he goes to bed that night. And that's, we know what happens the next day. During that night, Tara wakes him up and says, I just found my son's head in a bucket down in the basement. Okay. And we know about the 911 call. So then the next person on the stand is Tara herself. Now we see her take the stand. She's got long blonde hair. She looked to be maybe late 40s ish, just sort of a very nondescript, average looking woman. And at this point, the attorneys ask for a sidebar. When the sidebar is over, the judge has the jury step out. Jury leaves. The judge looks at the cameraman and says, this defendant does not want to be filmed. So if you filmed her, I'm asking you not to. Stop. So the camera goes to the seal, the great seal of the state of Wisconsin. And the judge brings the jury back in, and then we hear nothing for the next 15 minutes while they're direct examination of the mother, Tara. I guess the cameraman took that to mean no audio or video. So when it comes time for the defense to do their cross-examination of Tara, we get the audio. So apparently there was some clarification at some point, and they did allow the audio, but we don't know what happened on direct examination of the mother. I'm assuming that we got some sort of background regarding her son Shad, like his age, what he was doing for a living. We don't know. We don't know much about him at all, except that he went to high school with Taylor Schabusiness. And then he dated at one point. Now, the next person on the stand uh, they were not allowed to videotape because she's a juvenile. She's 16. So this is the daughter. Her name is Ava Wheelock. 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 And she sounded very timid. So we don't know what she looks like, but she sounds very timid, and a lot of her responses were, I don't know. I don't remember. So that day, the 22nd, that Monday, she had left the house in her car. She had a car she was driving. She drove herself to her dad's wedding. And when the wedding was over that night, she comes back home. She lives on the main floor of the house. She comes back home and she goes to her room. She doesn't remember if it was after dinner, before dinner. She doesn't know what time it was. She just knows that she went to her room. And then after she gets into the room, she hears people walking down in the basement. She hears a woman's voice. She can't make out what they're saying, but she hears a woman's voice. And then the next thing she remembers is she was awoke in the morning by the police asking her to come out and sit in the dining room. She had no idea what was going on. So she comes out there, she sits in the dining room with Tara and Steve, and she at another point, all three of those individuals are taken down to the police. They give statements and they go back home. And that was the end of her testimony. Then the medical examiner investigator, Petra, takes the stand, and she's describing things on the scene. So she gets called out. It's her job to respond to the crime scene and assist the medical examiner with the body. But the first thing she does when she gets to a crime scene is she will declare the person dead, if in fact they are dead. And I suspect when you find just a head, you're pretty certain they're dead. So that's the first thing she does. She goes down to the basement. She has all of her PPE on, personal protective, what's the E? I forget. Equipment. Personal protective equipment, which is usually this big white bunny jumpsuit that they wear, and gloves. And so she goes down, and there's a head in the bucket. She declares Shad theory on dead. She was able to match the head with a photo that they gave her of Shad. Yep, it's him. He's dead. So then she waits till the medical examiner gets there, and there's a detective that testifies later on in the afternoon, and he says pretty much the same thing. As these individuals would arrive on the scene, they waited for the medical examiner to get there, and the investigator, and for them all to go down simultaneously. And as everything was photographed first, and then there were several items like bags and mattresses and things like that, where the medical examiner would look at it first and would get photographed. If there was human remains within that object, it was placed. The investigator said they got out a child body bag and they laid it out, and they were putting the parts in the child body bag, photographing and doing all that stuff as they went around. And then whatever would be left in the item that they were searching, the police would photograph it and then mark it as evidence and process it. And yeah. So obviously the first thing was the bucket with the head in it. So the head gets taken out, put on the child body bag, and then also in that bucket was other flesh and 3 knives. And I do have photographs of the 3 knives. The photographs were presented through the last witness of the day, the detective. But because it fits in here, I'm going to show you. Here's the 3 photographs of those knives. There was a blue bag that was in front of the dresser. There was a pink and black backpack, and all of these items I'm talking about now had human remains in them. There was a blue tote bin, like the kind you get at Walmart to put your Christmas decorations in, or your yard, so to speak. And so this investigator, this is hard for me because this is so gross. The blue tote bin contained the torso with the arms attached. That's what it was in there. No yarn. Sorry to say. Then there was, she described that there was blood staining on the mattress. There were small pieces of human tissue on the carpet and in the shower area. And what this person said was, it wasn't the amount of blood that she would have expected to come from a body that size. We all have 5 gallons of blood in us. She just wasn't seeing a large amount of blood. So once they went through everything, she said, we realized at this point we didn't have the entire body. They've got the head, the torso, the arms. The lower half of the body, they don't have it. So they later find out that there's a second crime scene. They respond over there where they find the lower half with the legs in a crock pot box. And so that's processed there by this medical examiner, investigator, and the medical examiner, who we're going to hear from during today's testimony. He's the first person on the stand. I can't wait till they get to her interview. I just really want to see what she has to say. And her reaction during this testimony yesterday was really, really interesting. Very flat affect. It looked like she just wanted to break out smiling at some point. She was like, at one point, when they got the dildo out, the picture of the dildo, she was like, covering her mouth because she was. I know she was laughing. I know she was. Anyway, I'm not laughing because it's just not funny. Anyway. So then we get the crime scene investigators, and the significant things that they processed were a container of Clorox wipes, and there was a lot of stuff on the dresser. When you walk into this basement, you go to the right, and in front of you is, on the far wall is these mattresses, 2 box springs and a mattress, and then on the left wall is a dresser, and it's very cluttered, very, very cluttered. And you see bags and totes and stuff in different areas. The detective said when he walked down there, he's looking for a body, that to go with the head. And he does this like cursory look in the room, and he doesn't see anything. He sees the mattresses, the totes, the bags, the clutter. So on this dresser, there's this Clorox wipe container. They found some Pantene shampoo bottle in the shower area. They processed that. They found 2 dog choke type collars. One was on the dresser. The other one was there was this Pokemon or Pac-Man game that he had, like you would see in an arcade. He had one of those on top of the TV, I think. On the right side of the room, that's where they found the other dog collar. The dildo that was in this wooden box that had blood stains on it. They found that inside of a closet. A shout bottle, and I couldn't understand what she was saying. I'm like, what kind of bottle is she talking about? Shout, SHOUT, like the cleaner, shout to get stains out of your laundry. That was on top of the dresser, and then a total of 6 knives. found in various locations. So on this shout bottle that was on the dresser, they were able to process fingerprints, and they found the right middle finger, the left ring finger, and the right thumb opposite. I'm doing left instead of right. On the shout bottle of Taylor Schabusiness. So her fingerprints were on that shout bottle. So they swabbed everything for DNA. They actually cut through the mattress. I never saw any pictures of that. I don't know if it was photographed or not. But they cut through the mattress to see how deep the blood had soaked through. And the blood, she said, had gone pretty far through that mattress. So then we have Detective Scanlon that takes the stand. He was the last witness of the day, and he talks about all the different photographs that were taken. This is the point where all the photographs came in and were published to the jury. The first one is the one where I show you the house. Then there was, what you'll notice about that house is was it February? February, I think. There's snow on the ground. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was February. Yeah, February 22nd. So there's snow on the ground. It's a very long driveway, so a lot of cars could fit there. There was a picture of the stairwell coming down, so you could see the stairwell coming down. You could see, just to the right of that stairwell, you could see the multicolored blanket that had been covering the bucket. You could see the tote in this picture, and then beyond that, you could see the bedroom part of that finished basement. Then there's a picture of the bucket. Then there's a picture of the items that were in the bucket. No body parts are shown here. These are pictures that were taken of just the evidence that was collected after the medical examiner took all of the body parts with him. Then there was the photo of the mattress and the 2 box springs, several photos of that. Now, this detective said it struck him that there was no blood on the carpet. He said, now, the carpet ended at some point underneath that mattress, and then between the carpet and the wall, there was like concrete. He said there was some blood on the wall and some flesh on the floor there. Then you see a black and pink backpack. There's a picture of that. It's an Under Armour backpack. There was human remains found in that. There's a couple of pictures of that. Then you see a picture of the blue backpack. It's the picture of the dresser. You see the blue backpack, you see the Clorox wipes, the shout bottle. If you look hard enough, you can see a crystal meth pipe and a baggie containing what they later determined was crystal meth. And they tested it. And then underneath that shout bottle, towards the right side of that dresser, was a choker chain, one of the 2 that they found. And so at this point, he actually opens the bag of evidence and gets the choker chain out to show to the jury. My dog has one on. That's how I control my dog. Choker chain, great for dogs, not so great for humans. I don't want to know what kind of games they were playing. I don't want to know, but I have a feeling we're going to hear what the games were. So it's a silver choker chain. And he said it's significant because the one that was on the dresser was just in one length. The one they found over by the Pac-Man game, what you do with these chains, it's just a silver chain and it has 2 loops on the end. And to put it on the dog, you put part of that chain through one loop and then you pull it, and then you put it on the dog and you attach his leash to it. So this one had already been made into a loop, so to speak. So then there was a Jimmy Choo bag on top of the dresser, and we see a picture of that from the top down looking on the dresser. And there were 3 knives found on the dresser. So we see those. Or one knife. Yeah. So there's a picture of that knife, and it's a bread knife. And he said that this bread knife, a bread knife has the serrated edges. They go like this, the serrated edges. He said they were all dull. Those edges were all dull. And the next picture shows the paring knife and a steak knife. The steak knife, the tip was broke off of it, and the paring knife was bent. So then you see a picture of the tote that had the remains in it. You see a picture of the mattress with the blood. We get a picture of the dildo. Well, look at her face while they're showing the dildo. We're going to hear later on what she did with that dildo. That will probably be in tomorrow's episode. And then you see a picture of the shower. Yeah. This is a very gruesome story. Crime. Yeah. So that's what happened on day one. And the thing I noticed, I put it on today just to see who was on the stand so far. So the medical examiner is on the stand right now. I did notice that Taylor is wearing the exact same outfit she had on yesterday. I would have thought they would have gotten her like one or two outfits, maybe three. Nope, she's wearing the exact same outfit. Interesting. Now, when she started out the day yesterday, she had her hair was done. She'd pulled it back, um, and clipped it, and then it was long in the back. And then by the end of the day, she's slumped over, and her hair's like she's going like this, and her hair's all, you know, she just looks like she's over it. Yeah. She had this expression on her face, like it's even hard to describe. You saw it in many of the photographs, like she's smirking, like she wants to laugh at some points and she just can't. And at one point when the detective was describing the crime scene, she almost looked like she was proud of herself, like, look what I did. Yeah, very weird woman. And I say all that knowing what I know, having listened to the hearings, about what the psychologist has to say about her behavior. One is saying that she's psychotic, and another one is saying she's feigning a lot of this. And that was my thought when I'm watching her: is she really? Does she really want the? I think she wants the jury to think she's crazy. So that's why she's making these faces and acting like she's acting. It's just weird. And I know the camera's on her, you know, every second of the trial, because they're waiting for her to like jump up and attack somebody like she did in yesterday's video. I'm waiting for it too, because I just don't know what to expect from this woman. I really don't. All right. That's the show for today, guys. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Yes. Give me a like. And consider subscribing. Share this with someone you might think would enjoy to listen to something while they're crafting. That's what I do. I listen while I'm crafting. Makes the crafting go much faster and much more enjoyable when you have something to listen to. Some people listen to audible books. I listen to trials. All right, guys, have a great Tuesday, and I'll see you tomorrow in Crafting and Crime Daily. Bye, everyone.